This is a real story of my experience with something unknown that has left me shaking for days. I'll try to keep it short, but I'll also make sure not to forget any details. My name is Baham, and I'm 20 years old, and I'm from a small village in North Iran, up in the mountain area, surrounded with large forests. This story is from 2 years ago when I was 18. It was a partly cloudy day, and I was gonna go for a walk in the forest like every other day. And the main path of the forest crosses from behind our house. So it wasn't like it was a long walk or anything, but it was just deep into the forest. Eventually, I ended up on a dirt road surrounded by so many trees that you can't even see anything within 10 feet in front of you since you were surrounded by so many trees. At this point, it was starting to get late. It was between 5:30 to 6, and it was also starting to get dark. But because I was familiar with the path, I wasn't worried, and thinking I will be back soon made me just go for it even more. I was about 20 minutes into the walk, and it was just getting darker every minute. Eventually, I get to a part of a path that is just a straight road, which is about 1,000 feet, and you could see the end of it. As I was walking slowly on the road, I see a dark figure at the end of the road, just a black thing standing in the middle of the road. Since I was still far, I couldn't exactly tell what it was for sure that I was looking at specifically. At first, I thought it was probably a cow, since the village here has so many cows. But I also thought it was weird, considering that this one was all by itself, and it should have been with a herd not too long ago. And it was also just standing motionless. For some reason, I just didn't stop. I approached it, closer and closer by every second. I don't know what I was really thinking in the moment. I just remember just looking at the thing without a blink as I was walking towards it. That thing creeped me the hell out, because even though I was getting closer, it still remained motionless. Eventually, once I got about 30 feet within, I started to see a shape. It was a tall figure, long and skinny legs. At one point, I even thought I saw a third leg, or maybe it was something in its hands. I don't know exactly. I continued walking, still not sure what I was looking at. It felt as if my heart was starting to come out of my mouth. At around 10 feet away from it, that thing still remained motionless, appearing to look at me. I didn't have the courage to say anything, or even walk past it. At this point, I turned around and started walking away. With every passing second, I turned back to make sure the thing was not following me. But every time I did, it would just continue to stand there looking at me. It was almost completely dark out at this point, and after a few turns, I calmed down a bit, and at this point, I wasn't worried that much anymore. I didn't run home like crazy, and I just kept walking normally, trying not to think what just happened. What I did next, and saw next, horrified me for life. When I turned around, I saw the black figure again, standing in the middle of the road, much closer than ever before. I was so scared that I ran for my life, running, not looking back at any point. I started crying as well, just so scared of what I just saw. Once I got home, my family noticed that I was out of breath, and they were worried. After what I told them what I just saw, they simply told me that I was just hallucinating. But I know for a fact what I saw was real. I have never experienced anything so terrifying in my life, and hopefully I will never have to ever again. Ever since that day, I never saw the black figure ever again. I live in a small town. It's so small that everyone knows each other and there's absolutely nothing to do. In my early 20s, my BF back then, 23 male, and I, 21 female, would ride back roads and sometimes this old dirt road that led up a mountain called Treat Mountain. We often went on weekends and the rides were mostly nice. We just went to the gas station, grabbed a Red Bull and a quick snack and a pack of cigarettes while filling up the tank, and we would just ride until we got tired. We talked and listened to music the entire time. It was really a peaceful day, one of our favorites to go on. Just a note, Tree Mountain was once famous for being really rough. A bunch of crackheads and hillbillies lived there, as well as a large dog-fighting ring. My BF lived at the base of the mountain, so he knew it well. As scary as it was really pretty to drive up on a clear night because you could see millions of stars. Tree Mountain was also where I saw my very first shooting star, so it was always kind of a magical thing to me. My boyfriend was a big dude who always carried a gun and a rifle in the truck with him, so I never really felt unsafe while riding with him either. So of course, we would often ride Tree Mountain on the weekends. One night, I remember it was a full moon and the sky was clear. As you can imagine, it was beautiful. The perfect night to ride up the mountain and stargaze. My BF had bought me a telescope extension for my phone camera, and I couldn't wait to try it out. About an hour into our ride, we came up on a third clearing. It was really nothing but flat dirt on either side of us. The dirt ride divided into 3 paths, and we always took the path to the right. But that particular night, we took the path in the center because that's the path that leads to the top of the mountain, and that's where you got the best view of the stars. We've only taken the center path a few times because it's really narrow and creepy, and I didn't like it, but it was worth it for the clear sky and pretty nights. I usually just close my eyes and hold my boyfriend's hand. That night, I kept my eyes open. After about 10 minutes of driving, we stopped. It was dead silent. Not even a cricket was chirping, as they usually do. We both got a sinking feeling in our gut, but we brushed it off and kept going. A couple minutes later, we stopped again. A white circle with an upside-down star had been sprayed painted on the ground. A dog was tied up, and in the center of it, screaming for his life through his duct-taped muzzle. He was also covered in a strange black sludge that I assume was blood. "Stay in the truck and lock your door." My boyfriend handed me a spare 9mm that he kept on the center console as he grabbed his 45mm from under his seat. He got out of the truck with his gun cocked and pocket knife out. I watched in terror as my boyfriend pulled up the duct tape off of the dog's muzzle. Soon after, he began to cut the rope that was bounding the dog's paws. My boyfriend always kept his knives nice and sharp, so thankfully that didn't take long either. It took about 3 minutes total for my BF to free the dog and run back to the truck. He tried to catch the dog and take it down the mountain with us, but the poor thing sped off in the woods. After my BF got back into the truck, he slammed his truck door and locked it. He took my gun from me, locking it back in the center console, but he kept it in reach, just in case. "We are getting the hell out of here," he said to me as he started to put the truck in reverse. That's when I decided to look in the rearview mirror, and what I saw made me scream. A large group of cloaked individuals came walking out of the woods and into the circle. One of them was holding a large knife, and another was holding a walkie-talkie and began talking into it. They didn't follow us, but they stared at us as my BF put the truck in reverse and drove away. It was the fastest I had ever seen someone drive in reverse. We made it halfway back to the clearing where the 3 paths began, and we see more of them. Another one holding a walkie-talkie, and 2 holding canes. One started running for us, but he backed off when he realized that my BF did not give a shit if we ran over him or not. Once the guy made it out of the way of the truck, he started picking up rocks and throwing them at us. One rock even made a small crack in my boyfriend's windshield. To this day, it's still there, 7 years later. We finally make it back to the clearing, where my BF could turn around and drive the hell off the mountain. We never saw another cloaked individual again, and none of them looked familiar. To this day, Neither of us have ever been back on that mountain. We've told a few people this story, and a couple people have reported similar incidents, but nothing as intense as ours. We never saw that dog again, but I hope he got away. I hate driving back roads now, especially at night. They always told me to stop going deep into the woods, but I didn't listen. When I was young, I lived next to the Ozark National Forest. As a kid, I thought it was so fun to run through the forest, going far into it, hoping to find another world or maybe a new animal friend that no one but me has seen. Remembering it now, I see how my childhood imagination was out of this world. My mom hated that I would do all this. She told me one time that the forest was not to be played with, and that there are a lot of people that go into it and don't come back. She always wanted me to stay close so she could hear me if I need help, but I didn't want to. There was nothing cool close to my home. With my childish mind, I knew the coolest things were deep in the forest. Even after all the worrying, I didn't listen. I just had to keep going deeper, until one day, when my mom was distracted with cooking for a party. That was the day I knew I could run deep into the woods with no one worrying or looking for me. I remember I snuck out the back door and just started to run as fast as I could. I don't even know how long I ran for, but I just wanted to find that new world. I went so deep that I couldn't even tell where I was anymore. I found myself next to a creek, tired from all the running. I sat down, not thinking about where I was or how far I ran from my home. I was just hoping to find my new world full of fun and adventure. As I was sitting down by the creek, I couldn't shake the feeling I was being watched, but my childish mind was just thinking about all the cool things I could find out here. When I was feeling less tired, I stood up and started to follow the creek to see where it would take me. It felt like it took hours, but I finally found where that creek led. It went into the mouth of a big cave. Looking into it, I couldn't see anything but darkness. I yelled into it for fun. Hearing my voice in the echo was fun, until a loud scream came from it, and it was not my voice. To this day, I don't even know if it was human. Hearing that scream, I ran as fast as I could back up the creek, trying to get home, but I didn't know which way it was. I didn't even know where I was. Heavily breathing, I stopped to look around. It was becoming dark. I still didn't know where I was, and I was scared. Not knowing what to do, I started to cry. But then I heard a loud crunching from something walking around me. I took off again. I didn't know if I was going the right way, or if I was going to ever see my family ever again. I ran until I tripped over a log that was laying on the ground. Scared, I crawled into a rotted out stump next to where I landed. Sitting in the stump, trying not to make a sound, I could hear something walking up to where I had fallen. I shut my eyes, hoping it would go away. I could hear it breathing. It was trying to find me. I know it. The breathing was so loud and deep, I thought it was right next to me. I didn't know what to do other than stay silent. After what I thought was an hour, the walking sound and breathing got farther away. I finally opened my eyes. I didn't hear anything, so I poked my head out of the stump. Seeing nothing, I took my chances, got out of the stump, and ran away from where I thought it had gone. The darkness of night was set, and I couldn't see anything in front until I saw a light from a car. Running towards it, I came out of the woods onto the highway. The car was gone, but I started on the road, hoping another one would come by. Then, I heard a sound, so I turned around. only to see two red glowing eyes looking at me. The eyes were so high up, I had to tilt my head almost all the way up to see them. The eyes were looking at me. I felt so scared that I just stood on the road looking at them, not knowing if I was about to be eaten or if it was going to take me away to a world so dark that my childish mind couldn't even imagine it. Just as I felt the hope in my body being sucked out of me, I heard the sound of a car's tires squeal right next to me. I heard my mom's voice cry out to me. Hearing that, my head turned to see my mom getting out of the car, running to me. I got so happy that at that time, I forgot the eyes were even there. She grabbed me, crying. We hugged each other for a long time. "Where have you been?" she said to me. Just as she said that, I looked back into the woods, remembering the eyes, but they were gone. I don't remember much after that, just that we moved away from the woods. I didn't think about that night for 10 years. I'm going back to find out if that thing was real, if that night was real. After blocking out all the nightmares and sleepless nights, I have made up my mind. I have to know if that was real, or if my childhood imagination was just making it all up.